The Pirate Handbook by Pat Croce, Chapter number 1, Preparations and Provisions, Part 2. Pirate crewmen, however, can't afford to worry about how their ensembles look. They have important work to carry out. Getting it done properly and efficiently trumps getting it half done looking fashionable by a cannon shot. Flexible, form-fitting clothing is preferred, especially among men working in the rigging. Clothing too loose can become ensnared in the lines, and when you're working more than 100 feet above the deck, sans safety harness or catch net, accidents don't have happy endings. And from a little perspective, loose clothing will give your opponent something to latch onto. It's for this reason that long, loose hair should be tied in a ponytail or secured beneath a bandana. Straggly, unkempt hair can pose a problem for crewmen in myriad ways, continually falling in their eyes, becoming tangled in sail rigging, or providing a gripping point for enemies. Footwear also poses a major predicament. When decks become slick with seawater or blood or both, secure footing is hard to come by with many of the commonly worn shoes or boots. Going barefoot, however, provides superior traction in even some of the worst conditions. Climbing the rigging is also much easier to perform without shoes. Going barefoot does have a downside, though. For one, prolonged exposure to cold water often leads to hypothermia. Also, a significant amount of body heat is lost from exposed feet. But even worse, on-deck obstructions, especially during battle, when razor-sharp wooden splinters or mayhem-causing caltrops are routinely scattered about, will wreak havoc on your bare flesh. Yet for many sailors, the decision to go barefoot is not theirs, as the vast majority of footwear will literally fall apart as soon as it's been exposed to tropical climates and seawater. The next item in your duffel of paramount importance is a knife or dagger. Without question, the most important tool any man, especially a pirate, should own as a well-made blade. The variety of tasks one can perform with a good knife far surpasses that of any other tool, or even a combination of tools you can think of. Ideally, the knife you choose will be able to handle every kind of daily duty. Additionally, it should be able to assist you in putting food on the table, as well as enable you to defend yourself from an attacker should the situation arise. And it should be comfortable to hold and use, more an extension of your hand than a secondary implement. Relatively small in size, with a straight blade, seldom longer than 6 inches, the dagger is predominantly a double-edged weapon designed for thrusting and puncturing. A hilt, aka crossbar, will prevent your hand from sliding forward onto the blade during use and is capable of deflecting or, depending on the design, trapping your opponent's blade during a fight. When not being used for enemy bloodletting, secondary to the cutlass, of course, daggers are perfect tools for all aspects of piratical life, from shipboard chores, slicing rope, repairing sails, to cutting food during meals. Daggers are often referred to as flesh knives or fruit knives in honor of the skin they are best at slicing. Another worthwhile item to include in your duffel would be a length of rope. Even better, save room inside the duffel and simply wind the rope around it, unwinding it as needed. Excuse me. Aboard a sailing vessel, you can never have too much rope. From sail rigging to mooring tethers to anchor lines to safety belays for climbing the mast to restraints for unruly prisoners, sooner or later that extra rope will come in handy. What kind and how much is entirely up to you, but a 100-foot coil of quality hemp rope that does not fray easily or abrade when exposed to salt water is a good place to start. Another reason to add a length of rope to your duffel would be for knotting practice. Any seaman worth the salt in his bones should be a walking glossary of basic maritime knots. The more you know, and know well, the better. Practice makes perfect. Sailors should be able to tie a variety of knots in their sleep to better prepare them for extreme conditions. Now here is pictures of some piratical tattoos. This one is called the tribal tattoo, which we still see nowadays, and a Caribbean tattoo. And on this side, we have a historical Navy tattoo. I don't see the one that just says mom on it with a heart and an arrow going through. The next item might not necessarily go into your duffel, but for most men going to sea, it's still a critical part of their kit. I'm talking about tattoos, ritual adornments, and good luck charms. Sailors are among the most superstitious men on the planet. Many among them believe their fate and fortune lies not in their skills and abilities, but in the whims of the gods, be they Neptune, Poseidon, Yahweh, or Jesus. In an effort to influence those gods, or at least tip the scales in their favor, sailors take certain keepsakes with them wherever they go, in some cases even under their own skin, to ward off evil spirits or put them at ease. Tattoos have been around for thousands of years, descended from the word tattau, it's T-A-T-T-A-U, which means to hit or strike. Every tattoo has a different meaning to its bearer. Regardless of what you decide to put on your skin canvas, you'd be wise to invest a little thought into it, for once it's on, it's not coming off so easily. Just like with tattoos, all good luck charms and ritual adornments have different meanings to their possessors, but unlike tattoos, which are generally planned out before being acquired, even if only a few drunken seconds prior, charms and adornments can be acquired anywhere at any time. Many of these trinkets and keepsakes come from plundered booty, reminding the new owner of the spoils of victory. Others, such as pieces of clothing, jewelry, locks of hair, or even droplets of blood in a glass vial, come from loved ones or enemies, and were taken specifically to commemorate an occasion or serve as a reminder. Everything else in your duffel falls under the all-encompassing personal items category. And with space and weight at a premium, these should only be smallish items you need, not want. Consider a journal and quill to document your travels, a compact flask or flagon to keep your ration of rum, or a small set of eating utensils to make meal times that much more enjoyable. Marking all personal items with your initials, or, in the event you are looking to forge a new identity, carving or engraving a mark personal to you is a wise course of action. This will come in handy in the event of a disagreement over ownership and go a long way toward assuring that the only crewman punished is the one who rightly deserves it. Finally, you'll need a place to keep your valuables. After all, obtaining plunder is only half the piratical equation. Keeping it from being stolen is the other. While some so-called strongboxes are quite proficient at their charge, others will yield your treasured goods as easily as halved oysters giving up their pearls. And unless you are a captain of the vessel, it's doubtful you'll have the means to own a treasure chest. Should you be so lucky, it goes without saying that the best treasure chests are those that cannot be easily opened. Whether this means a chest that is imposingly constructed, capable of withstanding serious abuse, or one that involves trickery and deceit, such as hidden keyholes, the simple fact remains: only you should be able to open it. 3 lock boxes have, you guessed it, 3 locks that must be unlatched with the proper keys before access is granted. Some have been known to incorporate booby traps like acid or black powder, thus destroying the contents, and often the unlucky opener as well, if not unlocked properly. Some of the most impressive examples of true treasure chests, of which very few remain, make use of a concealed keyhole, hidden in a sliding panel somewhere on the chest. The obvious front keyhole is merely a ruse, and will undoubtedly cause anger and frustration after a myriad of unsuccessful opening attempts. For carrying currency and coins on your person, some pirates use a concealable pouch. usually just two swatches of leather sewn together, hidden beneath a sash, tucked in their drawers, stashed in a boot, or hung from a cord around their necks. But no matter what you pack into your duffel and how thorough you think you've been, chances are you're going to forget something. But that's the beauty of being a pirate. When you really need something, all you have to do is be resourceful and create it. Or, better yet, find, subdue, and plunder it. Havana. Twice a year, the Spanish treasure fleet would make final repairs and provisions in Havana before setting sail for Seville. I'm sorry, I mispronounced it. Meat, fish, poultry, fresh fruits and vegetables, able-bodied men, and the most important staple, rum, could all be sourced there. Just a couple of little short facts here, which are always interesting. Jolly Jack Tar. While Jack Tar or Jolly Jack Tar refers to seamen of the Merchant or Royal Navy, it is also the methodology behind waterproofing. Seamen smear tar on their clothes to repel water. Some even plait their hair into ponytails and smear them with tar, not to repel water, but to prevent their hair from getting caught in the pulleys and other sailing rigs. Also, because hemp rope will rot and fall apart in wet and humid environments, many lines are also soaked in or smeared with tar. And this little beauty here. The two women, Anne Bonny and Mary Read, prisoners at the bar, were on the board the said ship, the sloop, and wore men's jackets and long trousers and handkerchiefs tied about their heads, and that each of them had a machete and pistol in their hands, and cursed and swore at the men to murder the deponent. It's in a script that's difficult to read. This is the testimony of Dorothy Thomas at the trial of the two women pirates on November 28, 1720. All right, I think we got one other little reading thing to go here, and we'll be done with this interesting chapter telling you what accoutrement pirates have to be a pirate. All right, this is that tough print, so I'll do my best. Whereupon, as soon as they were arrived at Gracias a Dios, they all put themselves into canoes and entered the river, being 500 men, leaving only 5 or 6 persons in each ship to keep them. They took no provisions, being persuaded they should find everywhere sufficient. But their hopes were found totally vain, not being grounded in God Almighty, for he ordained it so that the Indians, aware of their coming, all fled, not leaving in their houses or in plantations, which for the most part border on the sides of the river, any provisions or victuals. Thereby, in a few days after they had quitted their ships, they were reduced to most extreme necessity and hunger. In this laborious journey, they were reduced to such extremity that many of them devoured their own shoes, the sheaths of their swords, knives, and other such things, being almost ravenous and eager to meet some Indians, intending to sacrifice them to their teeth. That's Alexander Exquemelin, Buccaneers of America, written in 1684. Excuse me, I got a little tickle in my throat. I need rum. Treasure chests. One of the only remaining treasure chests whose provenance involves a real pirate, in the case Thomas II, is on display at the St. Augustine Pirate and Treasure Museum, which is also owned by Mr. Pat Croce. Used to have one in Key West, right next door to the pirate bar that I bartended in. The chest weighs almost 200 pounds, empty, has a hidden lockbox inside, and the lid is secured with a dozen solid steel sliding bolts to keep it from being forced open by thieving hands. A little pic of it there. Treasure chests are known as a pirate thing. All right, that's the end of that chapter. We got all the way through one. Telling you little bits and pieces. Preparations and provisions. The next chapter is batten down the hatches. Chapter 2, we'll get to that later. If you enjoyed any of this, please come back again. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you'll be notified whenever I get it done. In the meantime, you can also look up It's Story Time with Uncle Bucky. I basically am a storyteller of many classic books, even children's tales. One of the books that I have finished is Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson from beginning to end. So if you're a pirate fan, check it out. It's Story Time with Uncle Bucky. All right, see you later.